And the way I got into it was, not too terribly different than a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people get into this particular industry because they become frustrated or their back's against the wall, whatever. They're looking for a new way, a new outlet. I had a lot of success very, very young in my career, where from the time I was 17 until the time I was 30, I'd founded a business, an arbitrage business, where I was buying and selling truckloads of groceries of all things. And that little business that my father and I started, by the time I was 23, was doing roughly $50 million a year. By the time I was 28, I was running an $800 million a year company. By the time I was 30, it was $1.8 billion.
Wow.
The 7th largest privately held company in the state of Florida. And so, yeah, I had a lot of success very young, but I was also, anybody that has that kind of success in their 20s, they can become a little full of themselves naturally, right? And so I was the definition of that guy. I was wildly successful, and the entire thing was because of me, and all you had to do was ask me. I was that guy.
When you don't know failure, that's how it seems, right?
Yeah, that was the problem, right? I'd never failed at anything, so I just didn't know any different. And, unfortunate at the time, but very fortunate looking back. My partners and I got into a run-in, and I walked out of there on March 14th of 2000. Proceeded over the next 2 years to make every bad possible decision I could make, trying to effectively restart a competitive business against them. Tried to go pirate their employees, tried to pirate their customers, was just pissed off and, trying to figure out a way to go and claw back and get back what I felt like I had lost. And it only took me 22 months to lose every single thing I'd ever owned, right? And so burned every relationship, burned up every dollar, lost several $1 million in that process. And, so when I tell you that my back was against the wall and I was desperate and I was in a really, really dark place, I was there, man. I was in a really rough place, and saw a late night infomercial talking about how to flip houses with no money or no credit, and decided to go down and check it out in West Palm Beach, Florida at the Embassy Suites downtown. And the rest is, as they say, kind of history. It was the first step. I basically saw somebody on stage talking about wholesaling. I'd never even heard of that. And when I gravitated to it very quickly based on what I had just done, effectively the same thing, but in the grocery industry. And so I went and invested $1,000 in a course, $1,000 that I didn't have, and had made every bad financial decision you could possibly make for the preceding 2 years. So to say that I was terrified of putting my credit card up there would be, it was a very scary experience for me, but it was exactly where I needed to be, because I quickly flipped my first house, and inside of the first year flipped 91 houses and kind of started my journey. And then that, one led to two, and before you knew it, two led to 102. And you look up, and almost 18 years later, I'm still here, still flipping a lot of houses and helping a lot of people, and very grateful that I had to lose it all to get to that place.
Wow. It's quite a story.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I don't think most entrepreneurs understand that when you're in it, it's really challenging to understand that you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. And so when I was in it, I did not feel like that was anything that I wanted any part of, but looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Quick question. When somebody said this, I can't remember, they're like, when I had these major failures in my life, they're like, I looked back, and at the time it was the biggest crisis ever. But now I look back, there are speed bumps, these things, because when you're in it, you're like, this is the craziest thing ever. How do you, when you look back now, when you had that, how does it feel to you? What does it look like now?
I mean, look, I have never lost touch with, for a moment, the desperation of those moments, right? It is to diminish that when somebody's going through that in any way, shape, or form, it's just completely disrespectful. I get it. And I get it at a very emotional level. I know what it's like to be suicidal. I know what it's like to just want it all to stop. I know what it's like to lose everything you've ever worked for years, right? And not only lose that, but to lose your, all your friends, all your work associates, your wife, basically be in a really, really, really desperate situation. That is extremely real, right? And so I don't want to discount it at all, but we all, to your point, hear that in the end, it all happens for a reason. And it sounds very cliche and cute to say, but it's just true. I mean, I clearly would not be here talking to you guys if it wasn't for that. It's that simple, right? Because I've gone off and since then It taught me a lot about what I needed to become. It made me grow up and helped me become a better businessman, a better husband, a better father, a better, in every regard of my life. I am infinitely better now than I was then. And none of that happens if you just keep going on the same track, right? So it was a blessing in disguise, simple as that. And most of the time they are.